Good afternoon, everybody. Just like that, we're back. So, if you're back from the show this morning, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're just coming in, welcome, welcome. I started a little bit early because it looks like the Pennsylvania State Police are going to be saying something in a couple of minutes. And then, of course, there's a lot of coverage going on for his extradition hearing, which is just a formality because he waived extradition. So it may not even be 10 minutes. I don't look for a lot to come out, if anything, to be quite honest. Now, the probable cause, I'm all about that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have a show tomorrow to go through the probable cause, because I don't think they're going to drive this fool back across the country. Got a feeling he's got a date with an airplane and a few U.S. Marshals, Con Air style. Remember that movie, Con Air? You'll never have steak again? Rexy says, wonder why he's been at the courthouse since this morning. That's what I want to know, too. Hello, where's Summer? Hello, Nana Banana. Hello, Angel. Beverly Lawyer said, yep. And of course, there's a lot coming out. I put a video up a little bit ago where one of his former students was talking about how his behavior was a little off. He seemed preoccupied. Then you have a neighbor of his saying that he was actually extra chatty after the murders. Some people say that when they were in these group settings talking about the murders, that he just kind of kept to himself. Well, there would be nothing weird about that because they said he was a weird duck anyway. Some said he fully participated. People noticed that after the murders. Now they're noticing this in hindsight. At the time, it didn't mean anything to him. Hell, people knew he drove a white Elantra. Nobody thought anything about it. Talked about him wearing gloves. I wonder if he was gloved up because he might have had a cut on him. I don't know. He was pulled over twice in Indiana. I know some people are really upset about this Indiana thing. Well, there was no APB for that car. These are regular traffic stops. Nobody in Indiana was thinking they were going to come across him. One guy said that he talked with him quite a bit after the murders. And he said he didn't notice a hint of stress. And what's really concerning, there's nothing pretty about murder, period. There's nothing pretty about it. But there's always a motive. Somebody did something for money, jealousy. We're always hearing about the whole drug angle. What if this guy just did it to see if he could get away with it? What if he is just that twisted? I don't know. I wish I could remember the name and find it because I would love to play it for you guys. I will. It'll come to me in the weirdest time. There was a profiler. All the profilers were saying stuff like, you're looking for, of course, they said the incel and, a student, which he's a student, that went back to school, went back home around the time that the murders happened. Somebody that called into work, took vacation right after. This one profiler said no. He said he believes that this, and I don't know where he came up with this, but hey, you throw enough shit, it's going to stick, right? He said this guy didn't leave it up for any determination that it could be a woman. I'm the one that kept saying don't discount a woman. Yet I keep having people coming in here telling me I accused the boyfriend and everything. I didn't. I'm the one that kept saying it could be a woman. But this profiler, he said, no, this guy didn't change his routine at all. He didn't change his routine at all. Now, I don't I don't know what led him to that, but I remember it stuck out in my mind, and I thought it was very interesting that he said, "No, this guy didn't change his routine at all." Well, it turns out that's the truth. That's the truth. He didn't change his routine. He was back he was in school on Monday. The murders are at, between 3 and 4 in the morning on Sunday. He's in school on Monday. He was in school on Monday for sure. Very, very strange, for sure. What am I looking at? I was looking to see what time this press conference was going to start. Hello, Glenjamin. He said profilers can be pretty amazing. You bet. And this guy seemed to really hit it on the head. I got to find his name. Hello, beautiful. I love coffee. Do you have any beautiful coffee? Because I could sure take a hit of it. So it's really interesting that in the murders of Ethan, Kaylee, Madison, and Xana, I've been saying it in alphabetical order now, so it doesn't look like I'm playing any favorites, that we have so many different things coming out. I wasn't surprised at all, and I'm sure you guys weren't either, to hear that we're dealing with just a weird dude, someone that's not really good at negotiating relationships, if you know what I mean. Doesn't have a lot of friends. We still don't have any girlfriend that's come out, do we? There's no girlfriend. Fed Up saw it too. Said, I seen that too, but don't remember when. Of course, there's different profiles out there where people think it's him. They think it was him posting. I don't know. Could have been. Nothing surprises me. Nothing surprises me. Like I said, it's not any surprise to hear that he might be a little introverted, awkward. Not Mr. Popular, if you know what I mean. But we're hearing different things. He's extra chatty afterwards. He's extra chatty. That he was quiet in these groups, but then some groups he was really talkative and had a lot to say about the murders. I would love to have been there for that. Nani said Scott Roeder gave a pretty accurate profile. Island Girl said there was an interview with a neighbor saying she heard a girl in his room. Not a word from her. Could have been that freak talking to himself in a female voice. Goodness, he could have been pretending to be his own girlfriend. Have a feeling we're going to get a lot of stuff on him. So a few of you sent me the news article from Daily Mail. You're probably going, oh, well, which one? The one that said he was singing rap lyrics in jail and like threatening to cut the guards and stuff and exposing himself. Did you guys see this article? I didn't do a video about it, and I wasn't planning on doing a live about it because I think this girl that was in jail over the weekend might be a little mistaken as to who it was. Jinbug said he was dropping bars. Like the Aldi's version of Eminem. Bryan. Rapping. It can't be true. Because let me tell you, you threaten a guard and you say you're going to cut a guard. He'd be in a bigger world of hurt right now than he already is. For sure. And anytime I see Daily Mail, it's a roll of the dice. You don't know if you're going to get some crazy mad facts or if you're going to get, well, what we got. I mean, listen to this. You come in here and I'll cut you, accused Idaho murderer Bryan taunts the guards, exposes himself, and sings violent rap lyrics. For one, they keep men and women separate in the jail, do they not? He was also supposed to be on S watch, if you know what I mean. And all they would have been doing is escorting her out of the jail after she made her bail. How did she get all this information in such a short amount of time? Doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I kind of felt bad because a few people were like, no, no, it's true, it's true. Here's the article. And I said, it doesn't sound correct to me. It says, I cut them, I'll cut you, he said. Well, isn't that admitting something? You come in here and I'll cut you, he yelled at one guard. I'm going to pee on your face. Do what you want with me. I don't give a shit. All right. Okay. All right. This is a Hollywood movie in itself. So then, about the same time that this article comes out, this is posted from this Bradley Warren. He said, this is the jail where Bryan is being held. The procedural hearing for extradition will take place at 3:30. He said, I'll be in court. A prison guard told me he's been on the ground facing the wall, not talking. Did the prison guard miss Bryan threatening to pee on him? Did the prison guard miss Bryan threatening to cut him or admitting to cutting all these other people? So I'm just going to go ahead and put that one in file 13. I don't think that ever happened. I don't think that happened. At all. All right, and this post is going around. Anonymous pleas. He was arrested only 40 minutes from our home near our aunt and uncle's. Went to school with my cousins. His sister lives in our town. A good friend of ours was one of the cops who has been following him the last couple days. He coaches with my husband, meaning the cop, and was telling him all the crazy details. He followed him into a Giant, which is a local grocery store, and wore gloves the entire time. He's not stupid and has been very careful. Well, he is stupid. He is stupid. He's extremely stupid. He got caught in less than 2 months. He's not smart. She said he's not stupid and he's been very careful. Also, he's been stalking them for weeks. Not sure if they ever interacted, but his cell phone pings followed their every move for 4 weeks. How can his cell phone ping follow their every move for 4 weeks? There's 4 victims. There's 4 victims. Let's say the rumor is true and he was stalking Maddie and Kaylee. That's still 2 people. Maddie and Kaylee are not Siamese twins. They would be in different areas. And this was an FBI detail finding him. Moscow police have no jurisdiction in Pennsylvania. Not that they can't do it, not that they aren't good at their jobs. They obviously did a great job here, but it's not they can't leave the state. They can't leave that town. Oh, help me, baby Jesus. Here we go. Not sure if they ever interacted, but his cell phone pings followed their every move for weeks. So freaking scary and disturbing. I've been so invested in this case the last 6 weeks and to find out how close he is to us. Okay, this comment right here, I believe, is where another Daily Mail article came from. You see what I'm saying? This is crazy. Diego, are you thinking that the cops in Moscow, Idaho are the ones that busted into his house and arrested him Friday? Because that was not the Moscow police. That was not them. where Summer said, I'm sure we're going to hear a million made up stories from people that knew. Yeah, we're going to hear a bunch. We're going to hear a bunch. Hey, here we go. It's getting ready to start.
WFLA Now will begin momentarily.
Nine, six. You okay?
WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
The suspect in the Idaho student murders arrives in Pennsylvania court where his public defender says he'll be waiving extradition to answer to the 4 first-degree murder charges in Idaho. We are live from the Pennsylvania courthouse with the very latest here on WFLA Now. Hello there to you folks. JB alongside WFLA's Josh Benson here on the right side of your screen. Here now live with feeds to show you. In fact, let's go live. We don't want anyone to miss this. This is the one camera shot that we have, the pool feed from inside the courthouse. Again, we are awaiting Bryan Kohberger, the lone suspect in the Idaho student murders. Now, as we understand it, what is going to happen here in a short time from now, this door will open when members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office deputies will escort Kohberger from the room, the holding area where he's currently being held, into the courtroom for, again, this initial extradition hearing. He is reportedly, through his public defender, going to be waiving extradition, which will pave the way for a speedy process as far as getting him back to Idaho, to answer the 4 first-degree murder charges. So this is live here on your screen. Also want to let you know as well, with the hearing coming up at 3:30 Eastern Time, Pennsylvania State Police have called a 4:30 press conference, a press conference that we do plan on carrying here on stream. So we're going to try to do this as a 2-for-1, if you will. 3:30, we'll bring you the very latest. We'll have coverage of the extradition hearing. And then at 4:30, we will take you live to Pennsylvania State Police headquarters, where we are expected to hear the very latest from investigators, again, in the apprehension of Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. So we had the video a short time ago, and it's been, of course, on social media, the video of him arriving at the courthouse earlier today. Since then, it's believed that he has been in this holding area, and ahead of the 3:30 court hearing, he will, of course, be escorted from this room into the courtroom. Now, the courtroom itself, as I bring in WFLA's Josh Benson, the courtroom itself, this was a little bit confusing yesterday, Josh, but the courtroom itself, there's no cameras permitted. That is of course, that is the rule of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, that there are no cameras permitted inside the courtroom, even though they are permitting the camera inside the courthouse, really in the hallway outside the courtroom itself.
Hallway, or is that?
Yeah. So this is what we're looking at as far as the hallway. So if they were to zoom all the way out, you would see a long hallway. This is not a very big courthouse, as I understand it. So this is what we're waiting on here as far as Kohberger's arrival. We'll go here live full screen and continue to monitor our comments here on YouTube Live, and we're about to launch on Facebook Live as well.
And I think everybody is talking about this thinking there's going to be something super interesting out of this hearing, but as far as I'm understanding, it's more of a formality.
Yep.
If he waives extradition, then, as you said, it's kind of speed up the process. If he didn't and he decided to fight it, that would be a little more suspect and would take a longer amount of time to get the process in order to get him back to Idaho. So I don't think we're going to see much today, and especially as you said, we're not going to have the cameras in the courtroom, so we're really not going to see much at all. But it is interesting. The police department's going to have that news conference, so I'm anxious to hear from them, because the video today was the first time we saw him.
I have it ready on the touch screen. We can come back to this shot if we need be. This is the video from News Nation earlier on today. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office, their vehicle arriving, and personnel getting out of their vehicle, opening up the door. And I believe the lone prisoner transport was for Bryan Kohberger. We'll see him here. And I'm keeping an eye, folks, on the hallway shot. If there is anything out of the hallway shot, we will go to it. Here is Kohberger in the red-orange jumpsuit being taken into the courthouse.
And, you know, there was a lot of officers around there. If you look behind the van, I mean, they had probably 10, 12, 15 officers out there for that kind of that walk that he had there. So that was interesting to watch.
So again, his public defender has met with him reportedly several times and has indicated that he will be waiving his extradition to Idaho, and that the chief public defender for Monroe County also saying that he is looking forward to being exonerated. And, you know, Josh, you and I were talking a little bit about this earlier. While the court of law, this is very much innocent until proven guilty. In the court of public opinion online, the belief out there, if you talk to people online, the belief out there is that this is the person responsible. People, of course, who have been paying very close attention to this story since day one. But again, as a reminder to our audience, court of law, innocent until proven guilty. So we have a suspect in the case, but the suspect, of course, is going to be doing everything that he can to prove his innocence. He has not confessed to the crime. He is reportedly telling his public defender that he is willing to be extradited to the state of Idaho to answer to these charges. And he is not going to be fighting extradition. And so we should find out really in the days ahead as to what the extradition process is going to look like. How quickly is he going to make it back to Idaho? And then, of course, the big thing, getting the arrest affidavit.
Everybody's waiting to see that, because that's going to detail out exactly why they think they have the person in this crime. And I think you said it. I think people are very anxious, you know, in these types of cases that get a lot of publicity. And, you know, the media, we cover this story in depth, as you know, as does a lot of the news agencies around the country and around the world. So it gets a ton of attention. And so when you see him and pictures of him, it's easy for a lot of people at home to say, hey, this guy did it. You know, you got to be careful, though, in this case, to say this guy has charges all over, but has not been convicted yet. And this is what the process is about. So I think it's so easy to look at someone and want some justice for a case as horrific as this one, and want to put a name with a face and say that person did it. But until we have, you know, the charging documents, the affidavit, and obviously the finality to whatever happens in this case. Look, they don't even have a murder weapon yet, correct?
Right.
I don't think they even have the murder weapon, which is a big piece of this puzzle as well. So I think you hit it on the head that people got to really be careful to say this guy isn't guaranteed to be the guy who did it, but, you know, he does have 4 first-degree murder charges on his back. So that doesn't look very good either.
Paying attention to your hashtag Hey Josh, hashtag Hey JB questions and comments. And we'll, as we await for this door opening, we'll go to some of the comments coming in on YouTube Live. If you use a hashtag on your screen, folks, hashtag Hey JB or hashtag Hey Josh, we can animate your comments on screen. And Mary says, we were told by Fry that, of course, being the Moscow, Idaho police chief, that they have the guy. And of course, they are expressing a lot of confidence in Idaho that they have evidence, but we don't know what that evidence looks like just yet. We won't know what the evidence looks like until the arrest affidavit comes out and is made public. And even then, you know, the arrest affidavit, we don't know how much of that information is going to be redacted. You hope that most of the information is available for public view and for, for us as reporters to dissect. But as of right now, there isn't any concrete evidence that has been made public. But of course, the investigators behind this case, the Moscow, Idaho Police Department, very confident that they have the person responsible, even though we have Bryan Kohberger, who says that he is looking forward to clearing his name when he answers to the charges in Idaho.
And something new today, the family spoke out that we finally got to hear from them. And Jason LaBar is the Monroe County Public Defender representing Bryan at this time. He says in a statement today to NBC. He says they don't believe it to be Bryan. They can't believe this. They're obviously shocked. This is certainly completely out of character, the allegations, and really they're just trying to be supportive of their son. So they're as shocked as everyone else. And to think of a family, getting that phone call to say, hey, we think your son did this. Can you imagine being in their seat? I mean, it's unbelievable. So they are, as we were told yesterday, they're going to be in the courtroom for this hearing today. That's coming up at 3:30. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see it, but they were going to be in the courtroom, as was, I believe, one of the victims' fathers. Did you hear that yesterday? I think one of the victims' fathers is going to be in the courtroom as well.
Gonzalez is going to be there, and he says that he wants to stare at Kohberger and let him know that that they are there and that they are going to make their presence felt in the courtroom. As once we have this door open up, we will listen in. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure if Kohberger will be escorted past the camera or if he will turn, because it'd be very interesting. I would imagine it's more likely than not that he's going to remain silent. He's not going to say anything to the cameras, but if he sees
they're definitely going
to
walk him in front of the cameras.
Right. That's what you would think.
They usually do.
That's what they,
in cases like this, they want everybody to see the person they got.
It's a modern day perp walk.
The perp walk, for sure. Yeah. Now, explain to what this door is. Do we know, is this where he's being held, or is this into the courtroom, or?
This is believed to be the holding area. So,
okay, where he's being held.
Yes. And you can see that we have had several.
Oh, it is almost.
All right, here's the door opening.
There it is.
Here is Bryan Kohberger. Let's listen in.
I don't think we're allowed to know. Just me. I don't. What are we about? And who said that?
That was pretty uneventful.
His walk.
But we didn't
say much.
Didn't say anything. So now this is the only spot that the media can set up. Is that right?
Mike, can you go back?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So okay. So let's
explain.
explain.
I think I might just.
All right. So let's explain exactly what happens from this point forward. Now, JB Buno, Josh Benson here with you on the left and right side of your screens, respectively. So here's how this is going to work. What just happened was Bryan Kohberger was transported from the holding area into the courtroom, where now the extradition hearing is going to begin in approximately 5 minutes' time. Of course, he arriving about 5 minutes ahead of the 3:30 scheduled start time on the docket in Pennsylvania court. So you would imagine that it's going to start relatively on time.
Yeah.
Of course, what will happen, as we understand that the process looks like this. The judge will confirm that he is waiving his extradition. There will be a paperwork component. I'm not sure if the paperwork component is going to happen in the courtroom, where he's going to write and finally, sign, in essence, his waiver to waive extradition, or if that is going to happen in a separate area. But this is where basically the judge is going to confirm that he is waiving his extradition out of the state of Pennsylvania, where he was apprehended, and of course, waive his extradition to the state of Idaho. We will follow along now with the reporters that are inside the courtroom itself. I spoke with Pennsylvania court officials on the phone yesterday to get a little bit more as to what this was going to be like, and they said, "Look, it's not the biggest courtroom, it's not the biggest courthouse. So what it was going to look like was it's a first come first served basis for reporters, members of the media, and members of the public to go in there and sit down." So I'm not entirely sure
there's
who's
a lot
in.
of media there.
Yeah, I would imagine that there was a lot of interest as far as getting a spot.
But as for so no cameras in the courtroom whatsoever, no pool camera, no nothing. They just You can only have it in the lobby. Is that what you understand?
Yes, the pool camera itself. So this is the pool camera feed.
Okay.
And the next time this feed is going to be relevant to us is when Kohberger is coming out.
Right.
And when Kohberger comes out, we will know, of course, the hearing is over. And I don't believe, if I remember correctly, I have the rules, basically the Pennsylvania Supreme Court rules in my inbox here. And I don't believe that live tweeting is permitted.
In the courtroom by journalists?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Really?
I'll read this here.
Do they have to give up their phones?
Let's see here.
Well,
The court prohibits the taking of photographs, video, or motion pictures of any judicial proceedings or in the hearing room or courtroom during the judicial proceedings. Here's the part that I find interesting. Additionally, the court prohibits the transmission of communications by telephone, radio, television, or advanced communication technology from the hearing room or the courtroom during the process of or in connection with any judicial proceedings, whether or not the court is actually in session. So the court prohibits transmission of communications from telephone or advanced.
And if you do it, you could get kicked out of court.
Right. So
contempt.
If they are enforcing Pennsylvania Supreme Court policy, there are no phones permitted inside of the courtroom. And
which makes journalists' job even harder. They got to wait like everybody else.
Yeah, because then you have to come. Who knows? I have been to courtrooms where they'll take your phone. They'll say, "Look,
oh sure,
yeah."
They don't mess. The judge doesn't
mess around. No, it's like this is the rules of this building. No phones past this point, and so it's kind of radio silence.
Oh, and Bryan Enton from News Nation, he's obviously there. He says going in the courtroom now, cameras and live tweeting is not allowed,
right,
but we'll update here and on News Nation when it ends. Hearing set to start at 3:30. So yeah, 2 minutes away from what should be the start of this. But yeah, no live tweeting. So we're all going to just have to wait.
Yep. And this is a good opportunity for us to talk with our audience.
Yep.
But this camera shot, everybody, this camera shot, I would get rid of this camera shot, but this camera shot is still relevant because when the hearing is over, again, Kohberger will be transported and escorted down the hallway back from the courtroom and into his holding area. And whether or not the paperwork component for his extradition will happen, whether it's in the courtroom itself, in the holding area, or back at the correctional facility, that I'm a little bit fuzzy. I'm a little bit confused about, but there will be a process where he will have to sign to waive his own extradition. And then, of course, the question will be, Josh, it's going to be when exactly will he be extradited?
Yeah.
And what will that process look like? And
that's a big deal because once he arrives in Idaho, then we start to get details in the case in the form of the affidavit, in the form of just details of how police came to the conclusion that this was their person and that he is the suspect. And he's been charged now with 4 counts of first-degree murder.
So we will use our opportunity here as we wait for some action on this shot. Josh and I will answer some questions. Josh, you're on the 4:00 news. So you have how long with us? Or
no, I am doing later shows, so 5.
Oh, you're on the 5 o'clock. So you got some time.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So we're gonna answer some questions, and so Molly.
All right, let me answer their questions, and we wait. We'll look at our own. If something goes on, I'll go back to it. Touche said couldn't connect. Mama B said those cuffs and shackles are going to be nice and tight for that plane ride back to Idaho. Yeah, I know that there's always the people that think they're in the know, but anyone thinking that he's going to get on some bus and drive back across the country, there's no way they're going to do that. Hello, Mama She.
That could be a lot of information into what happened and how they got him.
This is wild.
How he was arrested. I mean, detail. I mean, who knows? Who knows what they're going to talk about in detail in that coming up.
Court case said this court is stuck in the 1800s. You mean because they're not letting the cameras in there? Yeah, snazzy, exactly. She said, no, they're going to fly him. Yeah, they're going to fly him. He's going to be on there. He's going to get flown with some feds, probably some marshals. I mean, it's going to be like 20 against 1. There is no way they're going to take any chance of this guy escaping.
If you're a police department or any agency like they are, you're going to want to control some of the narrative because you're housing, suspect number one. You know what I mean? Like, this is a big deal for not only Pennsylvania, for people following the case. They want to prove to the public that, hey, we have this under control. We know what we're put on until he's extradited. So that's what I assume it'll be at 4:30.
Jamie in our comment section says #KJB. How long do you think that this will take? I think this is going to be extremely brief.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be long.
Yeah.
More of a formality is what we've been reading and learning about this scenario.
I mean, it's just the opportunity for the judge to have Kohberger in front of him in his courtroom. Okay, here
we go.
Here's some. Oh, they're waving. Okay, so this might be it. Let's bring up audio. Let's listen in. You saw the camera photographer wave. That is usually the universal sign for actions about to happen, communicating back to us at various news stations across the country. The time now, I just want to make note of this, 3:32. So if this really if this is it, that was extremely brief.
We do need to stop somewhere for dinner. Yeah, think about that.
As we pick up on some of the side chatter from inside the courthouse as well.
I thought they were taking care of it at 3:33.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna send a few and also go through and actually.
Yeah. I guess you have a whole press conference that in too.
Bryan, are you even trying to get this?
Yeah, I actually, when they opened the door, I kind of like this long disappear, let the
Maybe
door
not.
close thing. So I'm gonna
Seems like that might have been a false alarm. I was going to say
That would have been awfully fast.
That would have been a record. I mean, court hearings are known to sometimes be extraordinarily short, but that might have been a record. So let's talk more about the Pennsylvania press conference, the PA State Police press conference that they announced. And I thought that this was interesting. They announced it for. We have to be ready on the touch screen, folks, to hit a button to go full screen so that we can monitor Kohberger coming out of court. But Pennsylvania State Police, they released this. Colonel Robert Ivanchik, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police, Major Christopher Paris, Area 3rd Commander of State Police, and Monroe County District Attorney David Christine Jr. will be holding a press conference today to discuss the apprehension of Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Kohberger was taken into custody early Friday by members of Troop N and the Special Emergency Response Team at a home in Chestnut Hill Township in Monroe County in connection to the homicides of 4 University of Idaho students on November 13th. The press conference will be available via live stream. A PA cast video will be available after the event. And then it, of course, goes into the what, when, where, and the media contact for the event.
Title for what it's scheduled as, but when he goes in there and signs the waiver paperwork.
I can't hear.
Oh wait, yeah, this is interesting.
That's all he's doing. So I'm just trying to answer my caption. I said arrives for extradition hearing, so I should just say just arrives for hearing. Oh, extradition, no, it isn't. You're right. It's an extradition. Okay. That can go in numerous ways. Okay. An extradition hearing that can be.
You got better hearing than I do.
Okay. He was walking.
Do I though?
Oh, I can't hear a thing.
I'm listening.
Just wait till you get older, JB.
A hearing not to have yet.
Some of the normally off-camera interactions that occur when we're talking about what's that now?
Yeah. He's in the hearing right now.
Oh, okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah, just confirming with our team here. Thank you, Jim.
He can really hear well.
He must, and he's older than both of us.
Yeah.
So
what's his secret?
He has superb hearing. Shout out to Jim Hockett. So he has Bryan Kohberger has according to this court officer waived extradition, and what he's doing now in the courtroom itself is signing the paperwork necessary for him to formally approve and legally approve of his own extradition. So Yeah,
And I
this
guess
was
the
quick.
logical question now too is how long now before he is extradited back to Idaho? That's what everybody wants to know.
Yep. And the judge might be announcing that here shortly.
Mhm.
That answer might also come at the Pennsylvania State Police press conference, although that would surprise me a little bit. I'm sure it's possible, but that's going to be one. If they take questions, one of the questions is going to be, when is Kohberger leaving the Pennsylvania jurisdiction?
Mhm.
And it'll be interesting to see if we get an answer on that. But all of this unfolding over the next hour or so, folks. So if you're just joining us, JB here with you live on WFLA Now. Josh Benson, Bryan Kohberger, the Idaho murder suspect. He is currently in the courtroom waiving his extradition, signing the paperwork necessary. What will then happen after that is he will be escorted here by court personnel, by members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, I believe. They're going to be escorting him down the hallway back to his holding area. He will be transported back to the Pennsylvania Correctional Facility, awaiting his official transport. And I believe, of course, then it will be up to Idaho to arrange for transportation to bring him back to the state.
You know, it's interesting storylines too, is just what we see on social media and what everybody talks about in terms of, all right, how was he apprehended? How did they tail the car? You know, they found the car at the parents' house. That's something that came out today. The dad had traveled back to Pennsylvania with Bryan in the vehicle. There's some speculation on if they both, I think there was 2 tickets that they got pulled over twice on the way back. Now we're seeing some speculation that may have not happened from police. So we don't know the true story there just yet. But also seeing things, you know, what kind of inmate was he in the jail? I saw some things on social media saying, hey, you know, he was going crazy and he was threatening people. The Monroe County Correctional Facility warden came forward, I know, to CNN and said that he has been a model prisoner who has not caused any problems during his time in detention. That's according to a source familiar with Kohberger's status at the facility. So this just kind of shows you that there's so much information out there and storylines that are happening so fast. And it's kind of tough to decipher like what really is happening in terms of, you know, what's true, what's false, and what do people want to believe. I think a lot of people out there think this is public enemy number one and want to believe.
Hold on, Josh.
Thank you.
I know they're not going to move from
You
that
guys have been
spot.
awesome, so yeah, we're
Yeah,
definitely
try
gonna
to
try
put
to
that
work
on.
out. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do you mind hanging out 1 second? I'm just going to clear bathroom to make sure that nobody has.
So this is the court personnel preparing for this to be over with, and for him to now come back down the hallway. So we'll stay on this now full screen with audio fully up, but we'll try to listen in with everybody else watching wherever you're watching from once Kohberger arrives down this hallway.
Yeah. This building's closing up at 5, right?
4:30 usually.
I'm sorry, Josh. Did you want to finish that
No,
point, though?
I was just thinking, you know, this Kohberger's attorney, you know, he was on Today's Show this morning as well and said in an interview, you know, he was shocked a little bit when he was arrested. Well, first of all, I'd be shocked a lot if I was ever arrested. But he was shocked a little bit. He said, and he believes he's going to be exonerated. This is what the attorney for Kohberger said in an interview today. So along with what the family is saying, they're shocked to hear these allegations. They say this couldn't be our son. You know, these are things that are now coming out from the family and from Kohberger himself. So it's until he gets back to Idaho and until we see some more evidence of what happened in this scenario to get him to be this number one suspect. You know, there's going to be a lot of storylines on social media. We just got to be careful about what we report and what we follow as truth.
Yeah, sleuthy goosey. I'm paying attention to some comments here, but we're also trying to also get ready for Kohberger's next appearance in the hallway. Says hashtags both of us. The lawyer LaBar says he got tickets, but he hadn't seen them, didn't know what they were. Indiana State Police say they have no record of stopping either Kohberger. And this is based on reporting by Fox News that on the trip in mid-December, on the trip home, Kohberger and his father, according to LaBar, the attorney, that they got pulled over twice in Indiana, and Indiana State Police saying that there was no record of them getting pulled over. And that would mean, of course, that there weren't any tickets given.
Right.
But yeah, that was another nugget that came out from Fox News. As all these as interviews are done and questions are asked, this is how we get information between now and the arrest affidavit being released. Right. We've got the audio up on full blast. We also have it full screen for you for, again, Bryan Kohberger exiting court.
They start right at 3:30?
Yeah, they're right on time.
I figured.
We're starting to walk.
Walking.
Here we go.
Do you got bathrooms? They should be clear. Departing. 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 Departing.
For some reason, their camera froze. But the lady that keeps walking out. Oh, they're re-showing Bryan again.
Breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger appears in Pennsylvania court, waiving his extradition, sending him back to the state where he is.
All right, he's in his room for a second. I got to show you this and I'll put it back up. I swear the lady that gave the interview to the Daily Fail, this looks like her. We kept saying, who is that lady that's looming around outside the door? It looks like her. I swear to God, it does. That's crazy. That is nuts. Everybody's got a twin. She's got a doppelganger. She's the one that said he was threatening to pee on the guards and cut them. Let me tell you what, he'd have been a hurting unit, okay? He'd have been on a stretcher going in and out of that courtroom today if any of that stuff had gone down. If any of it had gone down. Got to be kidding. I'm going to put up the interview with Bryan's attorney that was on the Today Show this morning. Woo, it was something else. The guy actually almost looked a little surprised. He was like, yeah, like this guy thinks he's going to get exonerated. Even though the probable cause is sealed to us, which is not surprising. Him representing him, he's seen it. He's seen it. And it must be pretty surprising because he's like, yeah, he thinks he's going to get exonerated. Let's look at this clip real quick.
LaBar is the public defender representing Bryan Kohberger at today's hearing. He has visited his client 4 times since his arrest. Mr. LaBar, good morning to you. You have a busy day ahead of you. First of all, just quickly, what do you expect to happen today at the hearing?
I expect Bryan to be brought into courtroom 1, and he's likely to sign the extradition paperwork.
And you've visited with him several times. You've made a point to say you have not talked to him or tried to talk to him about the substance of the charges against him. What has his demeanor been like? What has his mood? What have you observed from those multiple interactions in the last few days?
He's being very calm. He's very aware. He understands the proceedings. I did discuss with him what to expect in the upcoming days on his transport, as well as what to expect when he actually returns to Idaho and is likely in front of a magistrate or a judge there.
I recognize you're being careful because you're handling this procedural matter. You're not the person who will be defending him at trial, presumably. But has he reacted to the charges at all? One can imagine being accused of something like this and saying, wait, where did this come from? Why are they coming after me? Have you seen any kind of that behavior from him?
It is a little out of character. He said, I mean, this is not him. He believes he's going to be exonerated. That's what he believes. Those were his words. So he's really been very easy to talk to, actually. And he's in a calm demeanor, like I stated.
What about his family? The mother and father, the sister, they put out a statement. What do they say about the charges against him and what they make of this in terms of the person that they know?
They don't believe it to be Bryan. They can't believe this. They're obviously shocked. This is certainly completely out of character, the allegations, and really they're just trying to be supportive with the understanding these four families have suffered loss, so that they're sympathetic towards that, and that's why it should remain really private. And they don't want to try this case in the court of public opinion. And without knowing the facts and evidence, as of right now, they don't really want to comment on things.
His father drove him from Washington State at the holidays back to Pennsylvania. I understand that was a plan that had been in the works for some time. They were also stopped by police a couple of times on the way, I think, for minor traffic violations. Do you believe that to be part of this larger investigation, or is that just a random coincidence?
I believe it to be a random coincidence. I don't disbelieve that Bryan and Michael Kohberger would have made that story up. There's no reason. They have been fully cooperative when they did speak with police and authorities. I know there's some reports that there's no actual evidence that they were stopped in Indiana, but Mr. Kohberger, Michael, had definitely said that they were stopped twice in Indiana back to back.
All right, Jason LaBar, I know it's a busy day before you. Thank you for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
That poor guy is like a fish out of water. He's like, thank you for having me. So what's going to happen today? He's going to go to room 1 and sign some paperwork. And of course, he says they're fully cooperative. Of course, he's going to say that because, well, he's a defense attorney. And from start to finish, he has to be given a good defense. Period. We all do. Snow said he thinks he's innocent. And look how he threw down for all of us. He said, I can't wait. I got to get back there in a hurry. You know, I've got a lot of stuff going on. Chocked full of so many things. Because I'm about to go get exonerated. Don't hold me back from getting exonerated. Like, I need the fastest plane you can get. I've got to get exonerated as soon as possible. So this was shared in the group. Then we'll get back to WFLA. Now, the January date, from what I'm understanding, doesn't mean anything. But this is on the Elantra, the white car we've been talking about for weeks that some people said didn't exist. Some people are still arguing that the crashed car in Oregon is the right car and not the one that the FBI impounded right outside the house where they kicked in the damn doors and jumped in the windows to get him out of bed and arrest him. Love you, Jakey5. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anyhow, I'll skip over that part. Just has to be mentioned. God. So, from what I'm understanding, He bought the car in April. All right, so he graduates from DeSales University in May. Then goes to Washington to start on the PhD studies, whatever he's doing there. Well, we know what he was up to. If you look on here, we know the murders were November 13th. November 18th, he goes ahead and he gets a Washington tag. A Washington tag. Now, some people, seriously, have said to me, well, it's not a big deal because when you move to a new state, you have to get tags in that state. Absolutely, I get it. And I'm one of those people, I'm never in a big hurry to pay more taxes. I'm going to push it to day 31 because I'm a real rebel like that if I need to. You normally have 30 days. So you're telling me 5 days after the murder, he decides to get all legal in the state of Washington? I don't know. Seems a little sus to me. He gets all responsible 5 days after quadruple murder? Look how long he'd been in Washington. He did nothing about this tag situation, but 5 days after the murder, he does. Mm-hmm. Now, he got pulled over twice in Indiana. One was for following too closely, and I think one was for speeding. Now, let me tell you, there is nothing odd about this if you have ever drove to the state of Indiana. There's nothing odd about getting pulled over in the state of Indiana. Love Indiana, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing odd about that. So people that are saying that there was some sort of detail following him, I don't think so. Hang on. Bama Skin said, Brooks, look at the mileage. 10,000 miles put on that car in 4 months. Yeah, he's definitely been doing other things on the road all the time. This isn't his first. Isn't that gonna be something? Isn't that gonna be something? If, big if, he's done something before. You know? Pretty crazy. Okay, there he is again. He looks right at the camera. He doesn't have his head down. Again, I might be looking into this too much, but we've seen people, if you've been following this channel, or before I had a channel, we did all the, I had a bunch of Facebook groups. So we've seen lots of pictures like this. Normally, when they're doing the walk of shame, they don't want to make contact with the cameras. Normally. Not saying it never happens. They are looking down. They're looking away. Sometimes they even want something put over their head so they can't be photographed. This isn't the only picture of him looking at the camera. Do y'all think that's a little weird? Yeah, try to cover their face. Exactly, MJ, but he wanted to make sure to get the perfect profile. Is this my good side, he's saying? Because he knows his ass is going to be on Time Magazine pretty soon. He knows it. Yeah, before I forget about this, the Corner Club, we've heard that name quite a bit over the last few weeks. Corner Club doesn't want people calling there anymore. Unless you're ordering chicken wings or to find out what time they're open or if they're going to be having karaoke next Friday. Other than that, they prefer us not calling anymore. They said that the suspect was not and has not been here. They're saying, I've never seen his ass before. He doesn't hang out here. They said no one was removed from the bar that evening of the incident. They said, stop calling us. Radio Gaga says right there, leave the Corner Club alone. The chief wasn't hanging out there that night either. The chief wasn't hanging out either. Nobody was kicked out. The suspect, they don't even say the suspect. They were in a hurry to tweet. They said suspect. They had to get their 140 characters in. Suspect was not and has not been here. We don't hang out with him, is what they're saying. So you don't need to call anymore. Snow, in a nutshell, said basically stop reaching people. Thank you, Radio Gaga. Let the Corner Club get back to making chili cheese fries and chicken wings. Exactly. They got beer to serve. They got stuff like that going on. That's it. That's about it. Glenjamin said they could have put that rumor about someone being kicked out to rest in week 1. Yeah, I think maybe they were just trying to lay low, or they kind of liked the new surge in sales, if you know what I mean. But now it's taken on a whole new animal. Whole new animal. Wiz said no one hangs out with him. They all said no. You know what? Even if he was there partying every night, I think they would say, no, we've never seen him before. Never seen him before. I do want to look at this article real quick before the press conference comes on, which is going to be a lot more telling than JB filming the door. Not Idaho killer shows genitals. Here it is. Not a hint of stress. This is my thing is we're getting different stories from all these people. And I'm not saying that they're making anything up. I'm not saying anybody's lying per se, except for the Daily Mail lady. I think she just totally had no idea what the hell she was talking about. No idea. But we're hearing that he was very chatty after the murders. Well, think about it. You have a lot going on. If he could only tell them what was really going through his mind. Hey, what did you do this weekend? Well, if I tell you, will you not tell anybody? Because it's a hard story to explain. No, they said he was extra chatty. Then we hear about these groups at Pullman, criminology. These aren't just regular students. These are people that study crime. That's all they do. Every little bitty bit of it. The teeniest little thing, they sit and they talk about it. And as they're talking about this murder, some people said that they had read articles saying that he was kind of withdrawn and not really talking, and others said he was very talkative. Well, anyway, this guy says not a hint of stress. I think this is also the guy that knew that Bryan drove the Elantra and said he didn't think anything of it. Let me see. I was shocked the whole day yesterday. He's his neighbor. He says he got to know him when he arrived at the apartment complex back in August, which again, in most states, I think every state, you only have like within a month to get your car tagged with the state tag. So he's been there since August, but he didn't put Washington tags on the car until 5 days after the murders. Sorry, that don't add up to me. That's suspect as can be. He said, I was shocked the whole day yesterday. Then he says he's lived by him since August. He said the two exchanged texts and talked occasionally on the stairs near their second floor apartment. Narong is now trying to think back to conversations he'd had with his neighbor to see if anything stands out. Good luck on that. Let's look at this video.
Welcome to the University of Arizona Global Campus. At UAGC, you can choose from over 50 programs with accelerated.
We're finding out a lot more about Bryan Kohberger tonight from his WSU department and fellow students. The Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology released a new statement today on Kohberger and his arrest.
And students who knew Kohberger are sharing more details about his time on campus. Fox 13's Jeffrey Dowling has a look at the latest information and just what Kohberger was doing in the weeks leading up to this arrest.
Investigators have now cleared the apartment where Bryan Kohberger lived, and students here on campus are now asking why he's accused in these murders.
I shocked like the whole day yesterday.
Graduate student Gaurav Narang is trying to think back to conversations he'd had with his neighbor Bryan Kohberger to see if anything stands out. Narang didn't want to appear fully on camera, but told us the two exchanged texts and talked occasionally on the stairs near Bryan's second-floor apartment.
He was very talkative and friendly person.
Narang says Kohberger was passionate about criminology studies and his PhD.
He would talk about he wants to know why people commit crime, why, what is the key reason behind crimes, and how people think while committing them.
When Narang heard police were looking for a white Elantra weeks ago, he didn't think much about it.
I knew that he drove a white Elantra, but I didn't know that cops are looking for an Elantra. We wouldn't know that, okay, Bryan could be the guy, because his personality does not match whatever the incident happened.
I think WSU is a very peaceful university and communities, and I never thought this happened.
This graduate student lives across from Kohberger at the apartment complex. She didn't know him, but wants to know why.
I also feel very sad for our students because, I mean, this is really out of my imagination.
The Latah County prosecutor said after Bryan is extradited to Idaho, more details could be released on what led them to believe he was connected to the murders. First, he'll be scheduled for hearings in Pennsylvania. Meantime, early Saturday, police continued to secure the home where the students were killed. Also, a new statement was released from WSU saying the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology at Washington State University is aggrieved by the alleged horrendous acts of one of its graduate students. We are relieved that justice will be carried out. Our hearts are with the victims' families.
He had told me around first week of December, I think I met him last. He had told me that he's going to visit his home.
Narang knew Bryan was going back to Pennsylvania for the holidays.
Not a hint of stress on his face or something.
Before he left, he says he showed no sign of involvement.
There is nothing suspicious after the Moscow incident which could point, okay, this could be the guy.
Reporting in Pullman, Jennifer Dowling, Fox 13 News.
Yeah. I like the one lady that said he's such a peaceful person. I just don't think they were really picking up on what he's really about. Not that anybody did. Would anyone, you have weird people around you. We all know somebody who's weird. You don't ever think that they could do something like this. No way. Snow said no one mentioned why the cleanup was stopped so suddenly. All they would say is it was a court order. No idea. He hadn't even gotten an attorney yet. He hadn't even, I mean, he'd seen a judge, but this guy I don't think was involved when they did it. Erica, but why him wearing gloves in class? Do you guys think that possibly he cut himself? He could have possibly had a bandage on and put the gloves on to cover up the bandage. Because, I mean, people are going to ask, what did you do to your hand? I mean, there were several people that, you know, all the experts were weighing in the last couple months. And they all said, no matter how good he is with a knife, he's going to have some kind of wound on him. Especially when they talked about the defensive wounds that Xana had. Because he was wearing gloves inside. Some people said that he probably planned this for wintertime so he could be, you know, wearing gloves and not stand out. Yeah, Rexy said he could have gotten scratched by the girls. Because Xana's dad said, like, within, like, week 1 or 2, he said she fought back. She had defensive wounds. Connie, what time is the press conference today in Idaho? There's not one in Idaho. It's in Pennsylvania. And it's in a few minutes. We're just getting caught up on some other things. I don't see how his defense. I mean, the guy in Pennsylvania isn't his attorney. He's just there to make sure nothing goes funky in Pennsylvania before he gets to Idaho. So I just can't imagine this guy being able to stop this cleaning the house. I mean, do they want more evidence against him? Are they like, no, stop cleaning the house. We want someone to go in and find more of his DNA so he's more guilty? That makes no sense to me. None. Thomas says, I want to know how he put 10,000 miles on his car in a few months. I'd like to know too. Some people don't put that on their car in a year. It's the Pennsylvania State Police. That are putting on the press conference. Let's see what is going on WFLA, if they've talked to Bryan Enton or anybody that was actually in the courtroom. Hang on.
Thanks for posting that. I will look and see if that continues to be the name that is going to be surrounded by his defense. Appears to be. So if that is the case, you're going to hear a lot about her. So we'll start digging on that, get some more information on who's going to be representing. But according to this reporter, it's Ann Taylor, Kootenai County. Thanks, Mabel, for forwarding that on.
Katie, #KJB, do you think Kohberger is guilty based on body language and overall attitude? So no one can answer this question. And I bring this up just to, this introduces us to this, the conversation that we were having earlier about how people say, look at his eyes, he's guilty.
Because they want answers. The people just want to know things so fast. But that's a fair question, because there are body language experts out there who will take a serial killer and look at the mannerisms and the body language and actually make a discernible, judgment on, yes, this person has tells and this person has things that you can tell when they're lying or whatnot. So, I mean, there's definitely a science to it. I mean, the average person like you or I couldn't probably figure any of that out. We could assume we did, but yeah, it's too dangerous at this point to make those kind of jumps in a case like this, because there's just so much more work to be done and so much more information that the public just doesn't know yet.
And of course, we've heard so much confidence being expressed by Chief Fry in Moscow that they have their guy. But I want to remind our audience, we're very early on in this process. The arrest affidavit will tell us so much. And that I really hope that people, once the arrest affidavit drops, we'll likely launch a live stream here and we'll comb through it. We'll go through it, a lot of it live. And hopefully, look, arrest affidavits, I've gone through, I can't, countless arrest affidavits. I'm just hoping that the redactions are minimal, because the redactions, so many times there's so much hype surrounding an arrest affidavit as investigators detail, what evidence they have. But there is, of course, a process that has to go through before it's released to the public, and redactions are made for the integrity of the ongoing investigation for the legal process. Redactions exist in different forms in different jurisdictions. So we're just hoping that the redactions in and of themselves are minimal so that we can get the, a clear picture as to what evidence is against Kohberger. Again, if you're just joining us, JB and Josh here with you. We are awaiting a 4:30 press conference from PA. And I'm getting that that's set up now. Okay. So that's, I'm just shooting a note out to our teams to make sure that we have that.
I may have to jump and get onto the newscast, but how long do you think?
Well, we got the presser coming up in 20 minutes. Up to you. You're my streaming partner in crime.
I could come back.
Okay. It depends, of course, on.
Gone 1 second. I'm going to show you guys this. Some people, okay, a statement was made that I don't know how this got lost in translation. That when they went to the house to arrest him, now mind you, they didn't do it during regular shopping hours, if you know what I mean, regular business hours. It wasn't like a between 8 and 5 type of deal. They didn't make sure everybody had a full night's rest. This went down at like 2 or 3 in the morning when they went to the house to arrest him. Now, somehow it came out, and I don't know why anybody would even make up something like this because it's so dumb. But they're saying that his dad just opened the door and let them in. Well, according to the neighbor, that's not what happened. There's a picture of their house. Neighbor of Idaho killing suspect, Bryan, tells Action News police and FBI raided the suspect's parents' home around 1 a.m. Okay, 1 a.m. I was way off. Well, by an hour. She says they towed away a vehicle matching the white Elantra for which Idaho authorities had been searching. There's a big difference between raiding the house. You know, Bryan Inton was talking about how there's duct tape over windows and stuff. That's probably because they're broke and it's cold outside. Didn't have time to get the people over to repair yet. But the neighbors say no, there was a raid going on. Yeah, the SWAT team did this. The SWAT team did this. There was no, is Bryan home? Is Bryan home? Can he step out and talk to us for a minute? We don't want to mess up anything around here. No. No. They busted their shit down. That's crazy. I had to take that music off. Here's the tweet from Bryan Inton. He said, the house where Bryan was arrested is in a very dark gated community in Monroe County. The front door was duct tape covering it where it looks like a window was broken out. Well, he obviously didn't walk around the whole house because from what I'm understanding, it wasn't a knock knock or doorbell ringing situation. At all. At all. I don't know why the hell anyone had to say, oh, they can't do no-knock warrants anymore. The hell they can't. They can do whatever they want to do. You don't even know what you're going to walk into with a situation like that. This guy killed 4 people. You don't know what you're going to walk into. Can you imagine giving him a heads up that you're there to take him to jail? Who knows what weapons they have in the house? No way. All right, they're getting ready for the Pennsylvania press conference. It's on the screen right now. See if we can hear them say anything. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, it was dark. Let me see what the neighbor said again. There's a picture of the house. It says, neighbor of Idaho killer suspect Bryan tells Action News police and FBI raided the suspect's parents' home around 1 a.m. She says they towed away a vehicle matching the white Elantra for which Idaho authorities had been searching. Then Enton says there's duct tape over a window that was broken out on the front door. He said it's a very dark gated community. Now, I don't know what he means by dark. If he means like it's a dark mood around there. But it would have definitely been dark when they went in.
A quick announcement, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Corporal Brent Miller. I'm the Department PIO for the Pennsylvania State Police. Some little insight for you. After everything's all said and done, we have Commonwealth Media Services, which is the front camera right here. They're going to package everything up for you. That includes the perp walk and all that good video footage. That will be on their website, pacast.com. That's pacast.com. It'll be available approximately 2 hours after this press conference. Our website, psp.pa.gov. Our social media at PA State Police. Our first Twitter tweet right now on our Twitter account is all your satellite coordinates and your links for live feeds. If something goes down here for your stations back at home. This is all going to be live. PAcast.com. It'll be the first thing, probably about 2 hours.
Sound check for the cameras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good? Light bounce good? Cool. Okay.
And you can find all our offices' contact information, if you don't know already, on our website, psp.pa.gov. Click on Ford Media. One of those phone calls will be to myself, Lieutenant Adam Reed, who's our director, who will introduce everybody at the press conference, and Miles Snyder, who's our communications director. Thank you. It's awesome. It is awesome. What we do. Wasn't gonna pick it next.
I don't have that.
So now look. So I guess it takes.
Audio. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, the streams are on our. Just waiting for my spine to drill and then turn something around. There was also okay. So I think it was, but it was this. So like whereas here it's only, and so I ended up like halfway got great run. And I was just getting frustrated.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Adam Reed. I'm the Director of the Communications Office with the Pennsylvania State Police. Thank you for joining us here. The order of speakers is going to be our Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner, Colonel Robert Ivanchik, Major Christopher Paris, he's our Area 3 Commander, and First Assistant District Attorney, Monroe County, Mike Mancuso. After the speakers have finished, we will then take a handful of questions. Colonel Ivanchik.
Good afternoon. I'm Colonel Robert Ivanchik, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police. While I monitored the investigation into the horrific murders of the University of Idaho students, I did not imagine the investigation would lead to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. My heart goes out to the families of the victims, their friends, the community of Moscow, and the University of Idaho. No words can heal the pain associated with the loss of a child. Their young lives were ended far too soon. In law enforcement, we understand the best thing we can do for victims and their families is to follow every lead, collect every piece of evidence, and bring those responsible to justice. I am proud of the members of the Pennsylvania State Police who were able to help in this investigation. The cooperative relationship between our local, state, and federal partners stands the test of time. The officers, troopers, and federal agents work together tirelessly, putting in long, difficult hours. Communication and cooperation are imperative to success and to ensure the integrity of the case remains maintained. The culmination of that cooperation ultimately led to take the suspect into custody and afforded the families some sense of peace they deserve. I want to thank the Moscow Police Department, the Idaho State Police, and our partners in the Federal Bureau of Investigation for their support, assistance, and coordination. I also want to recognize the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. And finally, I need to acknowledge the members of the Pennsylvania State Police, specifically members of Troop N, our Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and our Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations, who assisted in safely taking the suspect into custody in the early morning hours of December 30th. As previously indicated by Chief James Fry of the Moscow Police Department, specific details regarding this investigation cannot be released until the suspect is extradited to Idaho and presented with the probable cause affidavit. At this time, I will turn the microphone over to Major Christopher Paris, commander of Area 3, who was involved in the coordinated efforts to take the suspect into custody.
Thank you, Colonel. Area 3 comprises troops F, P, N, and R, and is made up of 1,000 approximately of the women and men, civilian and enlisted, in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania. I'd like to introduce to my left Captain Norm Kramer, who's the commander of Troop N Hazleton, which is comprised of Carbon, Monroe, Columbia, and parts of Luzerne counties. I would like to reiterate, as the colonel said, that Idaho law prohibits any release of information contained within the affidavits. So we're going to do our best today to talk about what phase we are currently in the investigation. And it has entered a new phase with the waiver for extradition. And the continuing primary goal is the seeking of justice through successful prosecution and conviction, bearing the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So with that in mind, we're trying to balance essentially two things: the public's desire for information against the need to maintain the integrity of the investigation and protect the suspects, accused at this point's due process. So I'll now attempt to give you an operational picture with the best information I can release at the time. So this begins when the Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation troopers were contacted by the FBI about assisting with surveillance of the accused in this case. I'd like to take the opportunity to specifically thank several individuals. Special Agent in Charge Jackie McGuire and Assistant Special Agent in Charge Dave Carter from the Philadelphia Field Division, as well as Supervisory Special Agent Bill Vigorito of the Scranton RA. We're very lucky in PSP to have a collaborative relationship with the Bureau, both in Pennsylvania and beyond, and their people are absolutely excellent. So as the investigation progressed, Troop N Criminal Investigation Section, commanded by Captain Kramer over my left shoulder here, began to collaborate with authorities in Idaho. Specifically, I'd like to acknowledge Lieutenant James Curto, who was here today, Sergeant Anthony Ferdinand, Corporal John Chulak, who is not present with us, and Troopers Leary and Knoll, who are here with us today. It was through this collaboration and the charges pending in Idaho that those troopers were able to obtain search warrants and a fugitive from justice warrant that was prepared here in Monroe County for the location in Chestnut Hill Township and the fugitive from justice warrant for Mr. Kohberger, respectively. I'd like to acknowledge the Monroe County District Attorney, David Christine, as well as First Assistant Mike Mancuso and their entire office. The support that we received was absolutely excellent. Once those warrants were obtained, the Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations, BESO, coordinates our Special Emergency Response Team, CERT. They were selected to serve those warrants, the 3 search warrants and the fugitive from justice warrant. To define what CERT is, it's a full-time tactical team maintained by PSP to deal with high-risk warrant situations, barricades, and other incidents requiring specialized tactical training or other capabilities. From their perspective, we essentially tasked them to go out and serve a arrest warrant for someone accused of a quadruple murder. They're activated several hundred times a year throughout the Commonwealth. We don't typically hear of their work in a forum like this because they serve the warrant, the person's taken into custody, and they go about their assignment. They are the ultimate professionals. It's a volunteer team. They're highly trained and highly motivated. Captain Norm Kramer over my left shoulder was assigned as the top comm for the CERT activation, which means he was responsible for coordinating our tactical preparations. So tactical assets were then staged in the county, in Monroe County, into the evening of Thursday, December 29th, last Thursday. And in the early hours of Friday, December 30th, those warrants were executed at the location. Mr. Kohberger was taken into custody without incident. The scene was turned over to the FBI evidence response team for processing. Mr. Kohberger was then turned over to the Monroe County Prison, where he has remained in their custody since. I'd like to thank the Monroe County Sheriff and the Stroud Regional Police Department for their support as well during the extradition process. Arrangements currently are being made to deliver Kohberger back to Idaho, where he can have continued due process and face these charges. So it's with that, I will turn it over to First Assistant Mike Mancuso.
Thank you, Major. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Mancuso with the DA's office, the First Assistant District Attorney. I want to give my condolences to the families of the victims out in Idaho for their loss. It's my sincere hope that this marks a clear step in the right direction of effectuating justice for those folks. My office's role was relatively recent. We weren't advised of the presence of the defendant in our county until only a couple days before the apprehension of the defendant. But when we were told, we came together and worked very closely with Captain Kramer, who did an excellent job in almost like a clockwork operation. Part of my duties were to ensure that 3 separate search warrants were issued. Those affidavits attached to those search warrants are still under seal, so I can't discuss their contents with you. But one was for the person of Mr. Kohberger, collecting DNA and photographs, that sort of thing. One was for the white Elantra vehicle, which I understand has been seized and is being processed. And one was for the address, the residence itself that he was living in with his family. I was at the scene, and I have to say that Major Paris and Captain Norm Kramer did an outstanding job in coordinating the efforts, not only of the numerous Pennsylvania State police troopers there, but officers from other jurisdictions and disciplines within those jurisdictions to make this a very smooth, highly competent professional operation. It is a quirk, apparently. It's not in the norm of the states I'm familiar with that Idaho does not release their probable cause affidavit in support of their arrest warrant until after their defendant is brought or returned to that state. But having read those documents and the sealed affidavits of probable cause, I definitely believe that one of the main reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and hurry his return back to Idaho was the need to know what was in those documents. So that's a significant development. Beyond that, looking at the scope of the situation and the ties this defendant has to my county, I would hold our office at the disposal of the Idaho authorities to help facilitate a complete background investigation into the defendant, both activities prior to the murders occurring within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and his activities after the murders in Pennsylvania. So we stand ready to assist with that effort on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
We can now open it up for questions.
Can you tell us what state police specifically did, or can you give us any indication as to the operations of state police, when you were notified? And you talk about putting tactical in the area. How long were they there? And what's the
We're not in a position to give you an exact time. It was at some point prior to when the surveillance was taken as the investigation progressed to a point where search warrants could be obtained and the probable cause for those search warrants and an arrest warrant, a fugitive from justice warrant based on the arrest warrant out in Idaho were obtained. We began to take the tactical steps to plan to serve them.
Were you collecting evidence prior to his arrest?
At this point, like we said, it's very much pertinent to what's in the affidavits, which we cannot speak about.
What's it about his demeanor when the arrest actually happened?
Present sense impression, as likewise ongoing investigation, can't discuss it.
Robin, 69 News, how is Kohberger being transported back to Idaho?
Those arrangements are being discussed right now, as well as the logistics. The court order says, those of you who heard it today, it's within the next 10 days. So we're currently working on that in coordination with authorities out in Idaho. Sir,
The defendant's mother in the court.
I can't comment. I don't know.
Is he being held in the Monroe County jail until he's extradited, or was he removed to another?
No, he is lodged in since he was dropped off there Friday morning. He's resided in Monroe County Prison.
Still, until he's
Correct, yes.
extradited, he'll be there. Are the marshals moving him, or which group?
At this point, that's still being coordinated between the state police and the authorities out there. We don't know.
Will the affidavit be unsealed when he arrives in Idaho?
I don't want to speak out of my lane. When I watched the press conference on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I was alerted to the fact that according to Idaho state law, that the affidavits have to be served to him once he's extradited back before they could be unsealed.
Did he say, has anyone else been arrested?
Ongoing investigation.
Has a motive been determined?
I can't comment on that either. I apologize.
Who transports him, sir? Does Pennsylvania State Police, the Monroe County Sheriff's Department?
He's presently back. He was transported from the courthouse by Monroe County Sheriff. And the logistics of who's going to transport him out to Idaho are still being discussed. We don't know yet.
Can you confirm the time of his arrest and how much law enforcement presence there actually was?
I would say it was in the early morning hours of Friday, December 30th. Tactical assets on scene were probably in the neighborhood of 50.
Were you afraid he was going to get tipped off before you got him?
I would say overall about this entire operation, and the credit goes, this is a part that the state police played humbly. You look at Moscow Police Department, 38 sworn, 19,000 leads, the video evidence that they had to develop in order to put that out, all public source information. But when you talk about the service of a high-risk warrant for someone who's committed or alleged to have committed 4 homicides, there's nothing routine about that. And all of those tactical steps that were taken were in conjunction with the best efforts of the authorities, local, state, and federal, both in Idaho and here, to ensure that we could do it safely and to ensure that we could get him into custody and that those service of the search warrants could occur.
Sir, can we ask you a question of the first assistant district attorney? Mr. Mancuso, you described having read to a degree the contents of that affidavit of probable cause, and that you possibly speculated or theorized that he wanted to get back to read that as well, since he can't read that. Can you give us an indication, though, of the seriousness of what you did read? I know you can't talk about it, but can you share with us something?
Yeah, I can't get into the details, sir, but I can say it involved the defendant's connection to a scene of a crime consisting of 4 murdered people. So that's the significance of it.
Can you confirm that there is a connection between Bryan Kohberger and any of the victims?
I can't discuss that.
How confident are you that he is guilty of these crimes?
That wouldn't be my place to say. Certainly confident enough that there was ample probable cause for the issuance of the various warrants in the case.
What was your reaction when you heard this? You've all talked about, you followed this. This happened states away. When you get that call, or you all get the call, that this person could be right here in your home area, what's your reaction?
Well, I was surprised. Really, Monroe County of all places. It hits close to home. It's a normal human reaction, I would think, under the circumstances.
Do you know when he and his father left Idaho or Washington and drove to Pennsylvania, what that date was?
No, I don't know the exact date.
Approximately, we understand the middle of December. Is that correct?
I think that's approximate.
And what about, we had heard reports that they were stopped not once but twice on the highway. Can you elaborate?
I'll defer to his Pennsylvania public defender on that.
Do you have reason to believe
Kohberger is connected to other crimes and unsolved mysteries in the area?
I wouldn't answer that question at this time.
Start looking at some that may be unsolved, where do you move it around?
That would be a normal thing to do.
Question for the PSP here. Said he was taken without incident. Was it safe to say that, I shouldn't say it's safe to say, but did it seem like he was expecting?
I wouldn't comment on what his present sense was. I would just comment that the professionalism of the CERT team and their tactical training definitely proved in a situation like this to do it in the most tactically sound and fastest way possible.
Was there anybody else in the house at the time?
His parents were in the house at the time.
Did they say anything to you?
Again, present sense impression. I can't comment on that ongoing investigation.
You break down the door.
Force was used. The warrants were issued for evening search warrants, which in Pennsylvania requires additional probable cause in order to serve them at the hours of darkness. I would defer to the first assistant to talk about the legal burden that you bear in order to obtain those. But from a tactical standpoint, based upon all of the briefings that we had developed and all of the intelligence we had developed, we thought that was the best time to serve it.
And what tipped off that Pennsylvania was involved with this?
We were alerted by the FBI. Troopers in the Bureau of Criminal Investigation were alerted.
Anything on like his social media pages that tipped anything?
I can't comment. I don't know.
So that was here. It's been cooperative in this whole process.
Can't comment. Ongoing, like I said. The state police's role here was to serve the warrants and assist with the surveillance, which we've done. We've been part of major investigations. You know, these are men and women who take an oath to protect their communities and the Commonwealth here. We're very humbled with the opportunity that we had, given a case that has really gained international attention, to play a small part in it. And our hat is off to Moscow PD again with the size and the complexity of this investigation and the work that they've done to get us here today. And this is only the beginning of the next step.
If it's determined that anyone here in Pennsylvania either helped to conceal or dispose of any evidence, then you would be a part of this case, or would it go to...
I would say that we would pledge whatever support we can for ongoing investigations with the Idaho authorities here in Pennsylvania. Absolutely. We would help them in any way we could.
Were there any weapons found in the home?
I don't want to get into what was actually seized in the house pursuant to the evidentiary nature of it.
Can you give any insight into why you all decided to go in overnight to make the arrest?
Those are tactical decisions in terms of base surveillance. I don't want to give out too many tactical factors that go into that situation, but obviously surveillance was conducted and we wanted to go in at a time when we thought it would be the safest for everybody, safest for anybody else in the house, safest for Mr. Kohberger, and safest for our people.
There was an interesting question asked earlier about the care that needed to be taken to not tip the suspect off. Could you describe how long that lid had to be on things and how many people were involved in it? Like how many people knew and for how long?
So I would say, I would answer the question this way. I don't want to get into a timeline in terms of when we were notified by the FBI and when the surveillance began. Obviously, we know on Thursday night into Friday morning is when the warrants were served. I would say, as a credit to the professionals, both standing behind me and others not here, many others not here, the information was held very close. And we did not want to have any situation where Mr. Kohberger potentially would be tipped off. So as a result of that, I would say a close number of approximately 7 to 8 individuals, maybe 10 on the most within the PSP side of this operation knew about it.
And for days, can we say? Or?
I would say for a period of time. I would not feel comfortable commenting any more than that for a period of time. And then as the tactical assets were brought in, people were briefed.
When the movement plan is finally decided, will there be an announcement? Will
not from the state police. So we would defer to Moscow and the authorities in Idaho.
When he starts leaving Pennsylvania.
Well, we have security concerns now, obviously, to move any prisoner. Anytime you move somebody from a secure prison to another place, we don't want to. There won't be an announcement from the state police in terms of those logistics, but they're being worked on right now.
Can you give us your best guess when you think he might be moved roughly? Tomorrow?
We would like to do it as soon as possible, but the court order says 10 days. We have 10 days to coordinate it.
Can you potentially be on a plane tonight? Is it possible he could be on a plane tonight? That's a possibility, right?
I can't. I would think that's probably not likely.
Private plane, or would you fly commercial?
We're looking into that right now.
Can you confirm or deny that a window was broken in order to gain access into the home?
There were multiple windows that were broken, I believe, to gain access, as well as multiple doors. I think the video of the house after the fact confirms that. And that would all be part of the tactical plan based on the floor plan of the house, et cetera, and what the CERT operators would do to serve those warrants.
Was the suspect on your radar before, and are you looking at any connections?
Wouldn't comment on that based on the ongoing nature.
But how about did he have a criminal past? According to the UJS, I didn't see anything.
I can't comment on a person's criminal history during an ongoing investigation.
Sorry, Mr. Mancuso said that you stand ready to assist in giving a complete background to the defendant. What specifically is law enforcement interested in?
That'll be the last question after Mr. Mancuso answers.
In any case of this nature, and I prosecuted a fair share of homicides, double homicides, that sort of thing. You want to look at any evidence of possible motive. You want to look at any evidence of a pattern, of modus operandi or method. You want to get into the subject's character, mental state to the best you can, that sort of thing. So it'll be an all-encompassing effort, which we stand ready for. Okay.
How will you do it?
We have our ways. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Just for a quick spelling, I'll give everyone the spelling of everyone's name. It was included in the media advisory, but just so we have it.
Well, that's it. So they're not going to say when they're moving him. I did hear one reporter and some of their questions. Whew, man. That was making me dizzy listening to that. Plus, you guys all got me hungry talking about the good food you're going to be having for dinner. One reporter said, so he could be on a plane tonight. He was like, well, no, that's probably not going to happen. So they have 10 days to coordinate it. I like when they said, will you be flying him commercially? Yes, they're going to sit him right behind the family that's getting ready to get a connecting flight to Disney World. Are you kidding me? No, they're not going to fly him commercially. I thought that was funny too, Christina, when he says we have our ways. That was good. That was good. So for the people that said, oh no, they don't do no-knock warrants anymore. They left that house all in one piece. It was great. They just knocked on the door and his dad opened the door. I don't even know where that came from, but it was just ridiculous. I like how he didn't even flinch. And he's like, multiple doors and windows were broken. So according to the neighbor, it was around 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm loving that. I'm loving that because, well, let's face it. He did his dirty work during the middle of the night. Why not drag his ass out of bed? Snazzy, exactly. Ample probable cause. Get him out of bed. And then there's his parents. They got duct taped windows now. I bet it's cold in there. I bet anybody that they called when they're like, hey, we need doors and windows replaced. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, the FBI has to go in and they have to replace it for them. Do you want to wait on them? Of course, they're going to want someone to get it fixed as soon as possible. And I bet they're having a hard time finding someone to get right out there and do it. Alicia, there were people saying they didn't do a no-knock warrant. Yep. And the funny thing about no-knock warrants, we only hear about them. Well, we're hearing about this one. Because I promise, I mean, they probably said FBI. They made themselves known. But the only time we hear about them is when they get the wrong house. And you got some woman out on the sidewalk crying about how they busted up all her shit, and then she's got a big lawsuit against them. There you go, Snazzy. They were harboring a fugitive. Yep, I heard that too. D said they might actually move him overnight. I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. I mean, I don't think just because of the safety reasons, I don't think they're going to tell anybody their plans with him. I don't think so anyway. Newport said, wouldn't be surprised if they use flashbangs. You know, I'm kind of more excited about the SWAT video than the 911 call now. That's what this case has been doing to me. And they're saying that he wants to know what's in the documents. I bet he does. I bet he does. I bet he's the only person next to us that wants to know more. So anyway, guys, well, that's all they gave us today, which basically was Bryan walking into court, signing his paperwork, Bryan walking out, and then we got to hear a little bit about how the SWAT team woke his ass up on Friday. Which, by the way, I think is awesome. This is awesome too. Thank you, Sea Star, military jet. He can be there in 2 hours or less. Exactly. DoorDash that fool. Get him over there. Gotta be kidding me. All right, guys, I'm going to shut this down, and I'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Don't know yet what we're going to be talking about, but once we all get together, it's never a problem. We're never at a loss of conversation. Never, never. You guys had, I mean, my mind was somewhere else for a lot of this, though, listening to all your food. So I guess I'm going to go plan my meal now. I've heard tacos, chicken casserole. I don't know what I'm going to do. Amethyst, if you have time, send me an email. I had a question about Idaho State website. I used it for Monkey Vaughn's case. But anyway, if you get a second, send me an email. So I'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning. You guys are the best chat on YouTube. You are. You're funny. You think. You don't say stupid shit like, they wouldn't have done a no-knock warrant. His dad was fully cooperating. He would have just opened the door for him. They didn't need to break a window or anything. We don't have any time for that stuff. So I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. For those of you not feeling good, get well soon. And as always, thank you for everything. See you soon.